Welcome to the Spunky Spirit Podcast. I'm your host, psychic medium Cari Mugz. This is where we learn all things spirit, everything from spiritual gifts, awakenings, ghosts, aliens, and starseeds. Nothing is untouchable, but always fun and spunky. I am honored to be on this spiritual journey with you, so make sure you hit the subscribe button so you never miss an episode. And welcome to this episode of Spunky Spirit. I am psychic medium Cari Mugz. And this week, we're going to talk about our higher selves. So when I first started going through my spiritual awakening and I kind of didn't know anything about anything, when I would read or people would say, you need to connect to your higher self, I didn't understand what that meant. And it kind of, because you think of something outside yourself, which kind of is, but not. And so I kind of want to explain in this episode what your higher self is and how you can connect to that, and what it may not be. So our higher selves are definitely our authentic selves and who we truly are deep, deep within us. Our higher selves know us unconditionally. So I'm just going to give you a little bit of an example. So I want you to imagine a ball of energy, like this perfect ball of energy, and that's your soul. There's no body, there's no labels. It's just who you are, authentically, perfectly, what you love, what you desire, all the things. Now, part of that ball of energy, that soul, decides that it wants to experience things. So it takes a little bit of that light or that energy and it creates a spirit, so if you think of a piece of coral, a big piece of coral, and then it's got little shoot-offs in it, I want you to think of a shoot-off. So there's a shoot-off of that energy, and that energy wants to experience things. So that energy has a shoot-off, and it's called a spirit, and it goes to wherever you want to experience these things. It can go to a body on earth. It can go to a different place, a different realm, wherever you want to experience this. Your soul wants to experience maybe a lifetime on earth. And let's say it wants to experience your lifetime in 1920. So it sends this little energy, a little ball of energy. And where do you think your energy came from? Your ball of light that makes your soul is created from the creator, right? So it just kind of goes. So you send this little ball of energy to earth and put it inside of a body. So a body's like a car. You get inside the car and you drive it to where you want it to go. And then you kind of make the car come alive. The car is as it is, but when you get in it, you make the car come alive. That's what this energy from your soul does. It takes a little bit of part of its energy, your soul, sends it down to this body on earth, and then it's created this little spirit. And so the spirit resides in the body. So this spirit of yours resides in the body. And then you're born. And you come into this earth with this body and you know nothing. Like all you know is your authentic self of who you are, your soul. And on earth, it's harder because there's a veil, and so we don't remember any kind of past lives or anything that we've ever done or any kind of other type of experiences that our souls have. We don't remember it on earth because the earth is three-dimensional, and earth doesn't let you remember that stuff because of the 3D density, right? So we spend this lifetime having the experiences that our soul wanted. Our soul, that's the blueprint. Our soul created this blueprint that our soul wanted to have experiences. It's not a test or fail type of thing. It's just our soul created this with other souls before we came here, and we decided this is what we want to experience. And so each tiny spirit that you send down in different lifetimes, like in 1920, 1950, 2025, those are different spirits that very much live, but they can, when they pass over and transform, they go back to your soul. So, but even though they're part of, it's like an ocean, one drop of the ocean, that drop is individual, but it's part of a whole. So our spirits, we have so like a big piece of coral has lots of little different shootouts. We have lots of spirits that experience lots of things, but they always come back to the soul. But our spirits are still individual. We still have these things, and they combine to make our soul. I know it's kind of hard to understand, but so as you are right now, you're a spirit. You're that soul, that energy of that soul is in your body, and it's creating, it's kind of like inside your body, which is inside the car. And the spirit is that energy is driving the car, driving the body. And so then a lot of things come into play. So you are born and you don't know anything. You just know who you are authentically. That soul is who you are. Your soul is your authentic self. It's who you are. And when you're born, you don't know any different, right? You don't, if you, there was a book I was reading that gave a great thing. When you were little and you cried because you were hungry, and if nobody fed you, you just cried, but you didn't think anybody didn't love you, right? Like you didn't think, oh, my mom doesn't love me because she's not. Now there can be trauma attached to that, like abandonment trauma and things like that, even when you're little. But more so, as you progress or as you grow, you become accustomed to your surroundings and who you are. And you have these belief systems set in place, which is religion. Well, you're given a name, you're giving a number, and you're where you're born. Like if you're born in the United States or somewhere international or in a tribal form, it's all those you start to take on those belief systems. And so they can be false beliefs. Religion can be good and bad. It can have lots of false beliefs in it that attribute to who you become, these false beliefs, outside of you shape your personality and shape who you are. So from day one, when you get here, you're given a name, you're given your religion, and you're given beliefs of your parents, and you're given all of this stuff that already starts to create this spirit. But deep down, authentically, you know truth. Your soul knows truth. This is your higher self. So when I give readings and I give an example of how they go, I always say, imagine yourself sitting at a restaurant at a table with a blindfold on, and around the table are all your past loved ones, and they're all trying to talk to you at once, and whoever makes the loudest noise or whoever gets the most attention wins. And that's kind of what goes on with your spirit. All this outside noise is making all of these, they're yelling and screaming at you to go this way and that way, and what you want and what you need to do, and this belief and this religion and this, and whoever screams the loudest gets the most attention. That's why whatever you focus your energy on the most is what grows, because that's just kind of how it is, because that's what you start to create, because your soul and your spirit can create your life. But when we're taught and told how to do it, then it makes it complicated, especially by governments and religions and all of that stuff. So when you need to connect to your higher self, you need to connect back to that soul. You need to close down and shut down all those voices around the table. You need to, because what happens is your spirit and your belief system, it wants validation from all those voices around the table. Your spirit wants to be like, okay, I want to do this, but I want validation for that. And it needs validation from parents or grandparents or office bosses, friends, family. It just needs all of that validation. And in career, it needs like validation from other people, mentors, things like that. And so when you really get quiet and listen to your soul and listen to what you want, not what everybody's telling you what you want, not how everybody tells you how to do it. And false belief goes as far as like thinking you have attachments to your families, or you owe your children things, or you owe people things, because that's what we're taught. We're taught all of this stuff, and we're taught that we need to help others, or we're selfish. We taught that we need to go in this direction, or we're not doing it right. And all these beliefs are created by all the voices around this table. They're created by man. They're created by this, where we're at. There are all of these voices. So we have to stop sometimes and listen to our own. That's why a lot of times back in the day, people would say that the highest frequency you can be on is love and gratitude. But really, the highest frequency you can be on is your authenticity. Because when you're authentic, you are listening to your soul. You're shutting down
all the voices around the table and you're listening to what you want. Now, you have to be honest with yourself too. Do you want to be this because you want it? Do you want to be skinny because you want it? Or do you want it because that's what society thinks you need to be? Do you want to be beautiful because you want it or because society says you need to be? Do you want to be young because society tells you that growing and aging is bad or not good? All of these things were created by a society or a culture, because in some cultures, growing old is beautiful and growing old is spiritual. And but in some cultures it's not. Some cultures it's considered, like, look at Hollywood. Hollywood does all these things to try and stop looking old, when actually it's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing. And weight is a thing too. Back in the day, you used to be considered beautiful if you were a little bit obese, because it meant that you were very wealthy and you were taken care of and you ate well. And so the society, I mean, that's another thing too. What we believe in is because that's what we're told to believe. And so you really have to but then sometimes you can also be like, I want to be thinner because I want to be stronger. I want to feel healthier. That's you. That's your authentic self. That has nothing to do with anybody else outside yourself. If you're like, I want to be thinner because my husband wants that, that's not your authentic self. So, and sometimes your authentic self can be lazy and slothful because that's the kind of life you want this time around. And sometimes your authentic self can be hustle, hustle, hustle because that's the kind of life you want this time around. That's why you really got to stop all the outside voices, social media, news, all the things. And you got to, and your family and your friends, everybody telling you, this is how it works. And you got to focus on what you want and what you believe. So when you are after a goal, and I have to admit, I even do this. Like this last couple of years, I've been after a goal for my business. My goal has always been to help people, but I've always looked at other mediums and said, well, that's how they do it. That's how I'm supposed to do it. And that's not what I want. That's not what I want. And so I would create my career and my gift on what other mediums were doing. And it wasn't until recently that I'm like, God, is that what I really want? Is that what I really want to do? Is that just going to be, is it going to make it crazier? Is it going to make it, do I want that because that's what I want? And, or is it because that's what I've been told to do? And sometimes you just want peace, right? And when we want peace, that's at our core. That's in our soul. That's who we are authentically. We're not doing things for others because they want us to, and we think we're selfish if we're not. We're doing things because we want to, and that's why. And so, and that's why sometimes you can do things seem so natural and so, but then we do this guilt thing because we're taught, if you don't do it this way, you're doing it the wrong way. So that's what your higher self is. Your higher self is this ball of energy that exists. It's kind of like the Matrix. If you've ever watched the Matrix, it kind of exists outside of yourself somewhere else, but it's inside who you are. That's why everything you need is already inside of you. But that energy, so this is just a piece of that energy that you have inside of you that creates your spirit, that houses the body. There's another part of that soul, like let's say 90% of it somewhere else, like creating that energy, doing that energy. That's where people transition to so-called heaven, right? Or wherever that transition is. So when you have a loved one on earth and they transition and they die, they don't go back. They do go back to their soul, but they don't cease to exist because they exist with the soul or inside the soul or all of that. So they're always an individual. That's why if you ever go to a psychic medium and they tell you that somebody's reincarnated, like let's say, so my dad has passed. My dad died in 1999. So let's say he's reincarnated, but his soul has picked another spirit to come to earth, but his spirit as my dad still exists. It doesn't come back to earth. That spirit part, that part of his soul always will be Bill Bingham. But his soul can be, it gets so over your head. But the main part of it is your soul is your higher self. And that's what you want to connect to. And you want to connect to an ancient part of you who knows the best, who knows all the things you love, who does things because that's what you want, not because of what everybody else wants, because of what you want, who has peace and who has quiet and who has love for who you are. And it's not based on conditions. Your love isn't based on conditions. So that's how you connect to your higher self and or who your higher self is. Now, the way that you can connect to your higher self is to quiet your mind. That's why meditation is huge. That's why everybody's like, well, meditation, because your soul or your higher self can connect to you and communicate with you. And so when I do readings, psychicness is when you connect soul to soul, so you can connect to somebody's soul. And mediumship is when you connect to spirits on the other side, so I can connect to their spirits, who they were at that time, right? And sometimes I can even connect to their souls. Okay, so that's why sometimes when you have an ancestor or a loved one who has Alzheimer's, and sometimes they can show up for readings, but they're still alive on Earth, it's because I'm connecting to their soul. So sometimes that happens too. It's such a huge thing. But what you need to remember is your soul is your higher self, and that's who you are completely, authentically, and no ifs, ands, or buts. That's why you don't ever need outside validation. You just need inside, because your soul will tell you truth. Your soul, that's why you get goosebumps. That's why because your soul knows truth, your truth. And your truth always isn't what's the truth for everybody, because everybody's soul's here to experience different things. There was a book I was reading called Embraced by Light by Betty Jean Eady. And she says in there that there was an alcoholic on the street, and that his spirit was beautiful and his spirit was so high frequency, but he wanted to exist in this lifetime and learn what it was like to be in that state. And that's what he chose. And so that's why you kind of never judge anybody, because we never know. That's why if there is somebody like right now that you really love and they're like really stuck in this rut of like maybe say religion, or it's because that's what they chose for this lifetime, for that moment. That's why you can't really choose for anybody, and you can't tell people how to do things, and you can't tell people how to change or how to live their life, because their soul knows what they're supposed to be doing. Now, can you come here and be lazy and not do the soul work? Yeah, you can. And when you get to transition to the other side, you're going to look at that and be like, oh, crap. You now have to do it again, or you're going to want to do it again. So, but your soul, just really connect to your soul. And that is your higher self. And that is who you truly are through thick and thin, what you love, all the things, like just deep, deep things. Like if you love truth and you want truth to be told to everybody, or if you love freedom, or if you love gratitude, if you love compassion, those come from your soul. And so all the other stuff like religion and things like that all comes from, that's all here on earth, man-made. And that comes, and if that feeds your soul and if that makes you happy, then that's what your soul wants to experience this time around. So that's your higher self. And I'm guessing, I'm just trying to tell you that when you want to connect to your higher self, just shut out all of the people around the table, all of the things around the table, all the social media, all the news outlets, all of the people, all the politics, all the government, all the religious stuff, and listen to your gut, listen to who you want to be, and listen to what you want to accomplish, not what other people tell you, what's the next step, or what, if you're in, school, and you want to be a doctor and you want to help people, and the next step of, obviously you need to follow those things. But what if you go to school and then you end up going in and you spend lots and lots of money on school and on your career, and then you start doing it and you're like, this isn't for me. But you're just like, but I spent so much money. And so people will think that I'm crazy, or I'll think I'm crazy. My spouse will think I'm crazy. I spent all this time and I have to raise these kids and I don't like what I do. And you're embarrassed and you don't want people to think less of you, and you feel stuck, and you have all these bills to pay and you have kids to raise, and then your soul, you get depressed and you get uncomfortable because you're not being authentic because you're stuck in what you've created. And so stuff like that is hard. It's so hard because our culture teaches you you just muddle through it. You get through it. Money's important and all of that stuff. That's why you see so many people just like quitting their jobs and going and RVing or I have a friend that sold her house and took her kids they live on a boat and they travel on a boat, and it's not easy, and it may seem like it on social media, but she goes through their trials still, but they listened to their soul. She knew and that is not by any means a normal thing to do. You don't just like sell all your stuff and sell your belongings and become a minimalist and sail on a boat through the Caribbean. That's not what normal people do. But that's what she does. And that's what she loves. And that's what feeds her soul. And that's what you've got to figure out is, what is it that you love? What is it? And I know that, when you have families, sometimes you feel stuck in that. And there can be seasons. So right now, when I was a single mom of 4, I couldn't all of a sudden be like, this is what I want to do, because I chose to have 4 children that I wanted to raise. And so I went through that season. And now I'm at a season where I'm like, okay, what do I want to do? Seasons change. And my soul at that time wanted to be a mom. My soul, that's what made my soul happy. Now that is over for me and my soul is moving on to different things. Now I'm still a mom, but my kids can take care of themselves. So now my soul is like, what's next? And so that's your higher self. Your higher self is who you truly deeply are, who you feel most comfortable being, and who you need to listen to the most, not all the talk around you. So I really hope that helps you guys. I'm sorry if some of it was so confusing and so deep, but that's, and in 10 years, I do reserve the right to change my mind and can say, okay, this is different. Because, I say all the time, spiritualism is not box. It's not in a box. This isn't how it works all the time. Sometimes other things can come through and you can be like, oh, this is different than what I thought. And that's okay. But right now, as of this moment, this is how I see your soul and your higher self. And there's lots of souls out there. Your guides that are with you, that help you, these spirits, they are trying to help you connect to your soul. That's what they're doing. And most of the time, your higher self, you do have a main guide, but your soul is your main anchor. Your soul is the one who's saying, this is what you really want. And your guides are just trying to lead you to what your soul wants, your blueprint, the blueprint that your soul created. So I hope that helps. I hope that makes it a little bit more understandable. It kind of like, just take what resonates with you and leave what doesn't, because your soul knows truth. So I hope that helps you guys. I hope you understand it. I love you guys. I think I have some more. Right now, I have my gallery this coming Saturday, and it's sold out. But I do have some more stuff coming up for the year, if it feels right for my soul, right? Because I was doing these things because that's what mediums do. That's what they do. But I'm looking at myself going, what do I really want? And how does that really work for me? And what's really in the cards? So, new things are coming, but it's going to be because they align with me, not because that's what I'm supposed to be doing. So I love you guys so much, and I will see you guys in a couple weeks.